6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Tomes and Tunes. I am your host of songs and also some book passages, and I am very excited to have a special guest today, Kellie Lin Knott, a songwriter. She and I crossed paths many, many years ago, and we reconnected over the interwebs, of course, as we all do over the years. And I'm going to go ahead and bring Kellie Lin Knott right on. If you are here in the live broadcast, make sure you say hi in the chat so we can see you. Hello.
Hello.
So great to have you on the show. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I was saying before the show, I love this idea. What a brilliant way to bring people together and have community, because what do we love to talk about more than books?
Music and books. It's music, books, and pie is like that's my kind of go-to.
I'm into it. And cookbooks, actually.
Really? So you cook?
I love to cook.
Ooh,
I cook.
We're going to talk about pie.
Oh, yes. We'll talk about pie. I'm actually not a great baker, but I'm a good cook. I like to make a lot of different savory things. And I've been hired, actually, to cook vegan and vegetarian dishes. In another life, I'm a yoga teacher, too. And I haven't done that for a while. But you teach yoga now, don't you?
You and I, it is so funny because our paths crossed ages ago. And then,
this.
yeah, we've kind of had some similar things happen. Yeah, I was a vegan chef for a while, and I cater yoga retreats occasionally. Mostly, I cater my own yoga retreats. And yeah, I've been teaching yoga now for 10 or so years.
Yeah, I've been teaching for 12, but less so in the last couple of years. Just kind of took a different turn. That is crazy. Yeah. And we didn't know this until just now. We didn't talk about this earlier.
No, we have never talked about food before. And that's actually a great combination because I love to bake. So you like the savory stuff. I'm like, I'll make dinner just to get to dessert.
I love it. Excellent. We should throw a party.
Okay, we're down.
That would be kind of fun. We could do some recipes and people could tune in and make the things with us, and then we could do some music for them while it's cooking, and then we can all enjoy together.
And we can sing some songs.
Yeah, I love it.
This is the way these things happen. It's just like that little seed is planted, and then that's how this whole show came up. Oh, Chandra is in, and best yoga teacher and yoga retreat food. Aw, thank you, Chandra.
See, testimonial. You're doing it right out there.
So you just moved to Minneapolis from Hawaii.
Yes, not the reverse, which is people often think I just got it confused, but no, I did.
And first of all, you moved during COVID.
I did. Yeah. So the house where I was living was sold, so it was it had to move, and it was scary. Actually, it was intimidating being on the plane, and I did have my little American bulldog who's snoring in the corner over here, Donna, with me. Donna dog, yeah. She came with the name and it just kind of fits. But yeah, when did I move? I moved June 25th, I think. I flew from Kauai. I lived on the island of Kauai for 5 years. And I helped to teach chocolate making. I have a friend, I was out there because a friend needed help opening a bean to bar chocolate making business. She was also teaching yoga out there. And then I wound up singing at all the resorts on Kauai. A lot of country music, which I'd never done before, and then more and more sort of singer-songwriter gigs, So chocolate, music, Hawaii, that was great. And my business partner decided to move back to the mainland, and my family's here in Minneapolis, and I haven't lived here since I was 17. And I think I'm in my 40s. I will be 41 soon. So a while ago.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So I was in Kauai over the New Year.
Oh my gosh.
I was there officiating a wedding in Princeville.
Oh
and
my gosh.
Stayed in Kapa'a for
I lived in Kapa'a.
And stayed with some friends and at some Airbnbs, which is just a crazy idea right now to do all of that stuff. But very
your timing was right.
It was very right. It was at the beginning of the COVID shutdown, I found myself just so grateful that I had finally gotten to Hawaii, that I had gotten to Kauai Island before that happened. And 2 years ago, I was in Alaska. And there was just something about the fact that I had seen a little bit of both of those states before this shutdown that, I don't know, I just felt really grateful for having taken those trips.
Oh, that's so neat. Alaska's on my list. It's one of the only states I haven't been to, and I'm so glad that you went because I'll get to hear about it at some point.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Alaska was both of those states. It was like a spiritual journey to go to both of them.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that Alaska is like Kauai and that it's its own planet. You know, you arrive there and you feel like this can't be planet Earth. This is too beautiful to be a place where humans can live.
Yeah.
It's and there's magic, you know. I think there's truly magic from the earth in certain places, and definitely Kauai. 5 years, I arrived there and people would say things like that to me, and I'd go, okay.
Yeah.
And then about a year and I'm like, yep, it's true. It is.
So tell me about Minneapolis. So now you're there in the time of COVID, and what does your life look like now?
So I am singer-songwritering on Tuesday nights. I'm playing original music on Tuesday nights, but then the rest of the time, strangely enough, I am I sort of fell into running shows for other musicians. Some of them are really well known, some of them are not so well known, and they just need coaching with how to make things go, how to make things sound good. Here, you know, we're in a platform called StreamYard, and then in Zoom and other platforms as well. So how can they keep their careers going? So I spend time supporting in different ways: marketing, website, publicity, and then running technology and fixing things when they don't work, figuring out where the ghosts in the machines are and banishing them so the show can go on. And that was quite accidental, and it's become close to a full-time business, and I'm loving it. Really,
Wow.
really fun.
And
really
you have,
fun.
I think you have some serious job security right now.
Right now I do. You know, I don't know what I'll be doing after this, but I'm gaining some skills that I feel like will allow me to sort of ebb and flow. I have always coached people in all things technical. Whenever anything goes wrong, or you know, somebody's grandfather can't figure something out, they have them on the phone with me because I can stay calm, I'm cheerful, I'm not irritated by questions. So it's fun. It might be a new career in tech support, and the fact that I'm interacting with other musicians who are so incredible, and again, in all places in their career. Some just starting out, and they'll break your heart with the first note, and you just know something's going to happen. And then others who have been doing this for a long time. Really fun, really fun.
Yeah, and they break your heart all the time.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Every time, every show. I spend a lot of time crying with joy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then my whole family, except for one uncle who escaped to Ohio, is here in Minneapolis. So that's great, because I haven't lived in proximity to my extended family and my parents and sister and niece and nephews since 17.
So are you able to see them right now? You mentioned in the pre-call, you mentioned something about a virtual...
So sometimes virtual. My little dog does shows for them, and then they also have a big backyard, and so we can mask up and social distance space and see each other that way outside. So we're trying to take precautions and see each other. And a friend just recommended actually a clinic here that does 24-hour results. This to me is like science fiction. Wow. The fact that this is happening on the planet, it really feels like a science fiction movie, but it's real. But a clinic that will give 24-hour results. So we're going to look into that, and maybe we can pod up, join pods, so that we can spend more time together. So we'll see. If it's safe, that's a possibility.
I think I hear Donna snoring in the background.
Oh my goodness! I can turn the game down on my mic. Yeah, would you? Let me see.
I don't mind it, but at first I was like, well, is that a hummingbird outside my window?
Let's see if we can do this without losing the internet. There she is. My little
Donna
puppy
the dog.
Yeah, she's a good kid.
That's really funny that I can hear her snoring. Microphone. She
cannot be in another room. You would then hear loud barking, so the snoring is the better option. She's a good dog, though. Yeah.
It's funny what you say about science fiction, because it's always like that flip, like life imitating art, art imitating life, and because we have never experienced this, it feels like our only real experience with a pandemic is from science fiction. It's from art.
Right.
And And yet, as we know, the 1918-19 flu epidemic.
Right, this has happened
then,
before.
Yeah, right after the American Revolutionary War, there was another epidemic. People were wearing masks at the time and social distancing, and we feel like this is such a preposterous idea, and we can't believe that we're doing it ourselves. And I find so much solace in looking back to those other times when it has happened in the, 200, 250 years ago, people walking around wearing masks and keeping their distance and not being able to visit. I couldn't have fathomed it before.
No,
yet,
I had no idea until it was uncovered during this time.
Yeah.
I mean, and you're right. And people came through, and eventually life resumed. I had a friend say to me the other day, the fear of this time will fade. It doesn't feel like it will, but it will. It will fade. And especially if we all participate and do our part to help that along in whatever way we can.
Yeah, you just used the word fear, and I think that sometimes what we're afraid of is not the direct thing, but the other stuff, right? So when this first started, I remember even in myself worrying that our fear of hugging, our fear of being near each other would continue forever after, even when it's safe to do so again. And yet when I look back on time, just the fact that before this time we all spent time together, we hugged each other, all the things, and there have been previous epidemics, so that's evidence right there that the human spirit, not only do we recover in other ways, but the human spirit also recovers.
Absolutely. And there's something really wonderful. I don't know about you. We sort of touched on this pre-call, but I have reconnected with so many people that I haven't spoken to in 15, 20, 25 years in the most wonderful and amazing way. And I say on every call, we've had this technology. Why weren't we doing this? Why weren't we getting on and spending time this way? And with all the digital cocktail hours or different things that people are doing to be together. It's amazing, and actually in a strange way, even though as this goes on I feel it more. I think all of us do in different ways. In a strange way, some days I feel more connected than prior to the pandemic, so it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I hear what you're saying. It's funny, it took I had done some live stream just talks popping on before gigs, like, hi, I'm at the venue, this is what it looks like backstage, kind of things, before COVID. But it wasn't till now that I've done shows online, and that this kind of thing, having a conversation with someone and, multiple people being on a single stream, I hadn't done any of that before this time. And you're in Minneapolis, and before you were in Kauai, and we could have done this.
Yeah, right? We could have actually met up in January.
Totally. Well, yes, in person for sure. In fact, we might have sat at restaurants together.
We could have. I lived in Kapa'a, so that's where I was all the time. Kapa'a, East Shore.
That's so funny. My little mind is running like, oh, do you know this person and that person? But we'll save it for offline.
We can do that another time.
I want to ask you a very important question pertaining to the theme of this show.
Oh, okay.
Which is, what that could be. Have you been reading anything lately? What have you been reading?
Yeah, I have, and it's interesting now. I think I'm experiencing anxiety in a different way, and I love to read. I've read for years, and usually I'm reading a couple books at the same time. And I'm finding that, I'll answer the question in a second. I'm finding that I'm reading a lot, but I've also started listening to Audible, which I never did before, because I can move my body at the same time, and that is sort of self-soothing in a way. So there's a number of books there, but my mom gave me this book. Actually, before I moved, have you read this one?
I haven't yet, no.
Okay, it's lovely. She gave it to me, and I can never find the camera when I'm moving the book forward. Right? Yeah. So there's a man here in his best suit with his best hat on, sort of staring off into the distance. And my mother had a father, my grandfather, who sort of came from nothing, and really did amazing things and was amazingly kind. And she gave me this book, and she said, when you'll read it, you're going to know why I gave it to you. And the character in this book is this man. He speaks about, right is right and wrong is wrong. And he comes across as sometimes gruff and uncaring, but he's really so loving and kind. And the book is his evolution. I'm only about halfway through it, actually. But I'm reading... I'm trying to savor this. Normally, if I get a book, I get the book and then I don't sleep for the night and I read the whole book. And I'm trying not to do this. So this has been going on for about a week. And I'm loving it, but I'm only, it's like a snack. You can have so much and you're done. And then you spend time thinking about it, and this character and the other characters, but mainly the main character inhabits my thoughts. And part of it is my grandfather was deaf for the entire time that I knew him. The character in the book, Avi, is not. But my grandfather had similar mannerisms. He couldn't hear. He was very gruff and loud. And but yet he was always, there was a twinkle in his eye, something jovial. And a couple years after he passed, I was singing in a yoga studio, playing music for another teacher. He used to improvise live songs based on the themes of the class. So I was in New Jersey doing that for a class. And a woman approached me afterwards and said, did one of your grandparents pass recently? And I said, well, a couple years ago, yes. And she said, there was a man with no teeth and glasses who was sitting next to you. And I said, what? And she said, no. Sometimes I see people. I see people who may have passed on. He was sitting next to you, and he said several times, I can hear you now. Because he couldn't hear me when he was here. And I thought that was really neat. And that just keeps coming back to mind as I'm reading this book, because this character is so loving and kind, and yet rules are rules, and you do things the right way, and you use common sense. I mean, it's a really interesting juxtaposition of what love is, and even how he describes his wife, who is very artistic and colorful and not interested necessarily in how things work. He's interested in how things work. She's interested in the magic of the world. And that reminds me of my grandfather and I, although I am interested in how things work now too. But not as a kid,
That book has been recommended a number of times to me whenever I, post on Facebook when I'm sort of at a loss. What should I read next? That book has been coming up. Yeah,
oh, wow.
So I'm glad to hear a little more about it, because I hadn't heard anything about it really, except that people have enjoyed it. Yeah.
Well, Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say what is currently in your hand when you have what are you peeling open at night?
So I have also started. I started using Audible actually a few years ago, because I was trying to read so many books at one time, and yet I also like to go for runs pretty much every day, or a walk every day.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, I'm trying to read so much, I could give up my runs, or I could just start listening to audiobooks, and then at night I read a physical book, and then when I'm out for my whatever.
Yeah. I totally get it. I do it too.
So and so it can get a little crazy, but right now on my nightstand is Toni Morrison's Love. I read her book Beloved earlier this summer, and I talked about it for several episodes of this show. Beloved wrecked me 1,000 times over, and is just stunning in so many ways. No wonder it is one of the most, just in that it's one of those celebrated books in the American library. It should be part of the canon that everybody reads. The first paragraph is bewildering, and actually for years I had picked the book up off of my shelf, tried to read it, and then just couldn't latch on to anything at the beginning, and so I would put it away. And then this summer I finally, in part sparked because of the George Floyd protests and all of the unrest that's been going on, finally all I wanted to read this summer were our Black American authors. So I was reading Zora Neale Hurston, and then I finally was like, okay, I really want to read this Toni Morrison, beloved. Loved it. So now I'm reading Love by her. At the same time, gosh, there are a couple of Rebecca Solnit, if you're familiar with her. She has a book called The Faraway Nearby, and Chandra is watching the show, and I had recommended that book to her a few weeks ago, and so then I pulled it off my shelf because I was like, oh, I want to, look at this book again.
Yeah.
But on Audible, this book is shattering me today. I don't know how to say whether you're reading, if you're reading a book on Audible or listening to it, but I've been listening to a historical novel called My Dear Hamilton, which is the story of Alexander Hamilton, more or less told from the point of view of his wife. She's the protagonist, and it's a long book, and the narrator, not the literary narrator, but the voice that you hear in Audible, is fantastic. The book is so well written. I knew nothing about Alexander Hamilton. I've not seen the celebrated musical. I know nothing about him as a political figure or as a personality.
Wow.
And so I have been immersed in My Dear Hamilton for a week or two or so, and I'm near the end of it. I'm just in the last couple of hours of the book, and today I can hardly concentrate on anything because of the revelations at the end of the book. I'm just like, I'm making my sweetheart apologize for sins of this other man from 250 years ago. I'm like, I'm like, these are fresh wounds for me, even though these, it's funny how books can do that. It's like,
yes. Wow. Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, I love inhabiting the emotion of a book, and there are certain books you go back to certain passages so you can live there and be in that again, and even see certain characters. I don't know about you, but there's some characters I mourn when the book is over. It's just like, sure. I'm gonna miss you. I loved being with you.
I know, and you can't undo the ending. Once you it's like you rush to it. You want to follow that story all the way to its completion, but then you want to reside. I mean, it's like our own lives. It's like we want to know the ending, but we don't want to get to the end. We want to stay. We want to stay in the middle and live it. But it just relieves all these questions and tensions and things these unfinished ideas by the time you get to the end.
Wow.
So, do you have a passage from that particular book or some other book that you would like to share?
Let me see. I marked. Okay. My pages came unfolded here. Let me find it. While I am looking, okay, I like this. While I'm looking for this passage, so I have a question. Do you read a fair mix of nonfiction balanced with fiction? I mean, what is your literary diet? What do you like to eat?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually, as a literary writer, I primarily write nonfiction.
Okay.
And I love memoir. I love literary nonfiction. I'm not so into autobiography of celebrities or
Sure.
I don't. That's not my diet at all.
Yeah.
But literary memoir is, and also literary fiction. So those are not sometimes commercial fiction. I recently read a book that was more YA commercial fiction, and I was angry that I was reading it for the first. Actually, it was another Audible book, and I was kind of angry about it. But it takes place in Alaska, and so I stuck with it because I wanted to sort of revisit in my mind my own memories of Alaska. And in the end, I appreciated the book and enjoyed it. But
good.
But yeah, more literary, either fiction or nonfiction. What about
excellent. I wander all over the place. I mean, I do have a guilty pleasure, and that's Stephen King, and that's been happening for years here and there. When the world is heavy, sometimes I'll pull out something of his. I actually really do like his character development, and I like being terrified from time to time with something that I can then close and it goes away versus something that is ongoing. But I do. I love reading about flavors and foods,
Yes.
food, and also
Mm-hmm.
food and travelogues. Definitely memoir.
Yeah.
I read a great one, and I don't remember the title of it, but the actress Sarah Bernhardt. I'll find it for you at some point. There's a fantastic um, sort of memoir-esque book about her, and I knew nothing about her other than she was famous many years ago, but she was so inspiring, and her death was really interesting and inspiring and terrible all at the same time, but who she was in that moment, really interesting. So I did find something for you
Okay.
from this current book. And in addition to this, I love reading books about creativity, which
Yes.
is strange, but I like to hear how other people approach creativity. I've also been taking a lot of songwriting workshops in this time with different artists, and I love unpacking that. Like, how do people think about different ideas, and how do you unlock the doors to different rooms of creativity? So I'm reading one, Creative Quest by Questlove. It is, yeah, and it's actually fantastic. I had no idea about all of the things that he does. A lot of the things that we do, food and wellness, and neat guy. Anyhow, here we go. A passage from the book. A man who was Avi, and one day he had enough. People always said Avi and Avi's wife were like night and day. Avi realized full well, of course, that he was the night. It didn't matter to him. On the other hand, it always amused his wife when someone said it, because she could then point out while giggling that people only thought Avi was the night because he was too mean to turn on the sun. He never understood why she chose him. She loved abstract things like music and books and strange words. Avi was a man entirely filled with tangible things. He liked screwdrivers and oil filters. He went through life with his hands firmly shoved into his pockets. And she danced. You only need one ray of light to chase all the shadows away, she said to him once when he asked her why she had to be so upbeat the whole time. Apparently some monk called Francis had written as much in one of her books. You don't fool me, darling, she said with a playful little smile and crept into his big arms. You are dancing on the inside, Avi, when no one's watching, and I'll always love you for that, whether you like it or not. I love my little book.
That idea of the compatibility between one person who lives so entirely in the concrete world and one person who resides in the abstract. That's an interesting idea. Where do you feel as someone who you help people with their tech issues? You're so as you described earlier. Do you feel like but at the same time you're a yoga teacher, and so those are kind of two different worlds.
Yes.
In a way, right? One
is I would agree.
So the tools in your hand.
Right. Yeah.
But they're both about connecting and making sure that the flow is going in the right direction, I guess you would say.
Yeah, there's differences and similarity. I know that when I started teaching yoga many years ago, I started teaching because it felt like music to me. Music always felt like love, a way to express and to care about other people, was to share music with them, to sing together, to sing for each other, to listen to one another. There was something about that built community in my life from a young age. And when I started to teach yoga very much reminds me of music, the energy of art and creativity and flow and breath, tension and release, like all the elements that are in a beautiful, fantastic yoga class. These physical elements, almost like choreography, show up in a great song or a great composition. And so what's fun about the way my brain works, it is two separate rooms. Like I have to walk into one room to do one thing and totally shut the door if I want to go, play music. But they do feed each other and support each other. The how-to, the technical, the one foot before the other. the what makes sense, like those things, you learn those things. It's like learning to walk before you run. You learn those things, and then you can close your eyes, open up your arms, and just fly off into the stratosphere, you know? So I think in a way they're the same thing. I taught a class on creativity a while ago, and a lot of the people in the class said, "Well, I'm not creative because I'm not a songwriter. I'm not a dancer. I'm not a yoga teacher. You're saying that's creative." And I said, "Well, I write contracts. I negotiate. I mean, that is hugely creative. There's creativity in everything that we do, even in basic survival." And so when you talk about two people who live in those different worlds, they're really just using different words to describe the same pulsing current of life and love, I think.
I'm right there with you. I like hearing how you're talking about music and yoga and creative thinking and all of that stuff. This is another place where we intersect. The yoga retreats that I lead, they're called Create and Flow, and they are about creative vision. And I always say that they're for yoga practitioners of all levels and creative souls or creative spirits of all kinds. And we always get, teachers and, we get like the things that are low hanging fruit when you think of creativity, like, visual artists, actors, musicians, writers, but then also, all those other things, teachers, sound engineers, I'm trying, someone who runs she's the manager of a camera, business here in Los Angeles for the movies. And, it's like all different types of things. Some people who are, they work out of the home, and some people who work at, fly all around the world. And then also I teach this, I teach a course called Sources of Creativity at a university here in Los Angeles. So it's really funny to me to hear all these ways that we intersect. I can't wait to come to Minneapolis.
I can't wait for you to come.
I feel like all the conversations that we'll have will be like this, like totally webbed, like song and then yoga and then, all kinds of stuff. That's awesome.
So fascinating and fun. Go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just excited about your retreat, and I was about to say something kind of silly. I was going to say, when's the next one? And then I remembered that we might wait for a while, right?
We might wait for a while. We were supposed to go to, this is the beginning of August, we were supposed to be in Costa Rica.
Oh, wonderful.
In a
I
few
love Costa
days.
Rica. Oh, wow.
We won't be there. And we've had a few retreats that we canceled for the time being. And then we'll pick up again.
You will. The time will be right.
When the time is right. I want to say that because I've been so shattered about the My Dear Hamilton audiobook that I'm
totally checking that out.
It's so well. If you do the audiobook, also the narrator is really great. I think that she might be the same narrator as the one who read Where the Crawdads Sing. I know that a lot of people, a lot of people love that book. But the writing is wonderful. The research behind it is excellent. It's just such a it hits multiple levels, like the emotional truths as well as the historical information and the characters and the relationships. But because I'm so shattered and because it's an audiobook, I didn't actually. There were a couple of passages that I would have earmarked if I had had the tangible book. However, I can't share them because I don't have them. So I pulled since I first started reading her in college, Jeanette Winterson has been a writer who's been really close to my heart. Have you read her before?
No, but my eyes are getting huge because it's the third time this week that I've heard the name, so that goes on the list.
Third time this week.
Yes.
I don't know if she has recently published a new book or not, but 3 times in 1 week is
goes on the list.
It goes on the list.
It goes on the list after 2 in 1 week, but I'm excited to hear it. So tell us about her.
So she is prolific, and there was a time when I read everything that she published, and then at some point I just didn't anymore. And it's not because I don't love her. It's just that there's, how much time do you have in the world to read, right? So, and there's so many books. So I haven't read anything by her in recent years, but she does, I think, publish more or less frequently, whatever that means. This is a book that came out a long time ago. I'll tell you when it came out. Oh, it's signed. It came out in 2000. This must have been the book that I bought directly from her at a reading at the
Wow.
I think it's the 92nd Street Y, 94th Street, 92nd Street Y in New York City.
Okay.
I bumped
great.
into a middle school friend of mine at that reading who I had not seen since middle school. It was pretty awesome. So I will read you this passage, and you can decide whether she moves up on your list or down on your list based on this one. This is from a book called The Power Book by Jeanette Winterson, although I would say, just start wherever.
Start wherever. Okay, that's good. So you can pick up.
This is the passion. It's the passion. It's she can do get into magical realism.
Okay.
If you like art critique, she has a book of essays called Art Objects, or also Art Objects. It kind of has the
cool. It's both.
Double play, yeah. But I'll just read you this little piece. You had once asked me if I was afraid of death. I said I was afraid of not living. I don't want to eke out my life like a resource in short supply. The only selfish life is a timid one, to hold back, to withdraw, to keep the best in reserve, both overvalues the self and undervalues what the self is. Here's my life. I have to mine it, farm it, trade it, tenant it, and when the lease is up, it cannot be renewed. This is my chance. Take it. So that's the short little passage.
Definitely up on the list. And also, she may influence what song I play later if we play songs.
We are playing songs.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Wow. That's beautiful. I love this. I love this idea that life is something that we farm and create and shape. And we were just talking about this, that also we rush to get to the end, but we don't want it to end. I love how you said that. That would be beautiful in a song. If you know any songwriter. Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, her writing is it's infused with this idea of fully living life and savoring it. And I think perhaps the reason she became such a favorite of mine, I think I first read her when I was a freshman or sophomore in college.
Okay.
So 17 or 18, something like that. And that's the time of your life also when music does the same thing, when you're really hearing,
yes.
It's like, even if you don't listen to that same band or that same songwriter anymore, which I probably do, actually, the same people, but it's like they hit you sometimes because you just haven't lived enough to have ever heard those ideas expressed before. And I think she might have been one of the first writers who I really felt like she was saying, don't choose the mediocre path. If there's something that you want to do, go there. Don't worry about what you see of others. We each have to choose our own path, but don't. I feel like I'm reaching for a word. Don't be milquetoast. Unless you want milquetoast.
Right.
But she says throughout her writing in so many ways, like if there's something that you like, that you really desire, that you feel is deeply authentic to you, don't trade that away. Go there, even if you haven't seen it modeled, even if all the mind chatter that goes along with it. Just go.
Well, that's timeless. I mean, these are thoughts and words that we need to hear and be reminded of, Yeah, I like what you said about hearing them the first time, maybe that 17 or 18 years old, and letting those ideas take hold, and we start to dream and imagine what is possible. Yeah. But I don't know if you do in yoga. When I sort of, as I'm meeting people as a teacher, a lot of times people find yoga when they're at the place when they need to hear those words again.
Oh, for
I
sure.
think, when it's time, they find yoga maybe in transition or in a time when confidence has waned, and it's time to just remember who we are. Yeah. Who and what we are naturally, and how beautiful and powerful that is.
Absolutely. Totally true. And in fact, actually, I think the year that this book came out was when I started practicing yoga. There was a sort of a lot happening I think, in my life at that time. And I started practicing around 99 or 2000 when this book came out. And so it was like sort of the same, all
Oh,
that
wow.
stuff.
Yeah.
So Kelly, would you play a song for us?
Sure. Let me see if I can do this without knocking over. I haven't yet figured out the ideal streaming position, so I have things stacked in very odd ways to accommodate getting the... All right, so sort of inspired by, I wasn't going to play this, but sort of inspired by what you just shared by Jeanette Winterson. This is a song called The Dream, and part of it is just because I have really vivid dreams. I wake up and will think something happened, something very ordinary, and it didn't, or a conversation that happened with someone, and it never happened. But then it's also just about realizing that the choices we make are... I'm going to sing the song. But it relates to what you just said. How about that? Memories in pieces, stirring like smoke, clues found in waking, a fragmented hope. I know that you were there. I gotta find my way back in. I know that I was there. Face the clock away again. I'm traveling through time, the dark of my mind, to the place where I'll find you waiting. Eyes wide open right now, hardly aware that we're floating, falling, so are we awake or asleep? And when we wake up in the real world, when we wake up in the real world, will we miss the dream? Sunrise and coffee, the same old routine. None of the freedom found in the dream. Is this the world awake? All that we say we can't do? Or is this the world we make? The loneliness, the nothing new. I'm traveling through time, the dark of my mind, to the place where I'll find you
So lovely. I
Thank
love the
you.
melody of that.
I'm going to try to set this down. Do you have the falling dreams? I have a lot of like falling, flying, sort of bodiless, weightless dreams. So it comes from sort of that motion.
I can feel it. I can feel that. I have a very active relationship with my dream life.
Interesting.
When I was little, I remember being fascinated by, one of my earliest memories is a dream, and I still can pull it up in my mind. And sometime in elementary or high school, I actively wanted to cultivate a better understanding of not so much about like dream interpretation books, but a more conscious relationship with my dream, a more conscious relationship with my subconscious, I guess.
Yeah.
And I really value that that time between sleeping and waking, when the dream is still with me and I can. It doesn't fly off. You know, if you wake too fast, it's gone. You can't contemplate it. But if I can stay in that middle layer between sleep and awake, I can hold on to that dream a little bit and contemplate it, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, so I love that song. It really speaks to me.
Oh, wow. Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, can you get back? Can you go back? Every once in a while I can go back. Can you?
Yeah, if I don't fully wake, it's a very delicate thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like you can't get pulled too much into this world.
Yeah.
Otherwise the door to that other world closes.
Yeah, it does. It slams shut. Oh, I love that you can go back. I do.
Yeah, there's some days when I wake that I find myself like it's gone, you know, it's gone.
Yeah.
But there's like a wisp of it still with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I find myself in a weird state on mornings like that when I'm trying to grasp something that's just out of reach, and it's like trying to grasp air. It's like I can't, it's not solid anymore, it's gone. And it's such a strange feeling. Mornings like that, I really have to work hard to not be irritated. You know, it's like I really have to kind of. Yeah. Do you know? How
I know exactly what you mean. I do. I know exactly what you mean. That's why I'm laughing. Yeah. No, it is because I don't know. I get very direct messages as well as you know, the mundane things. But a lot of times there are direct messages and things that I need to hear. And so if I feel the essence of it and I can't have it, irritation is a good word for that.
Yeah. And I also feel like I build in my dream life into my creative process.
Oh, yes.
If I'm working on an essay or a story or a song or anything like that, I can get so far on day one, and then I have to go to sleep, and then first thing in the morning, get back to that thing, because there's something about just. I think the same thing happens. I don't think I actually have to sleep for that. I think the same thing happens when I go for a hike. It happened the other day while I was out on a hike, and I had been hiking for hours, and I got lost at some point, and it was somewhere at that very end part where I was almost found again that I had a breakthrough about something that I had been working on.
Wow.
And came back home and sat down at my laptop and was able to finish the thing.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Finishing the thing is cool, especially when it comes like that. Isn't it funny though how often it does? Like you leave the thing to be whatever it is and you go do something else, and then it like comes to you. It's like a wild animal. Like if you chase it, sometimes it has no interest in you, but then the second you turn your back, it sort of follows you and approaches you and then gently wanders its way into your arms, and you can carry it home.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. That's a really great way to say it.
Well, are you gonna sing one?
I'll sing one, and then I guess that will be the show. This has
Wow,
been really fun.
It's going so fast.
I know.
Thank you so much for the invitation, for having me on. This is great. I can't wait to talk more when we can.
I know. Me Me too. There are too many things.
Yeah.
Too many things to talk about.
Too many parallels, too.
So this is a song that I feel like it applies, so often in life, but especially right now when we're in the time of COVID. That idea that when you're in the difficult time, you don't see a way out. You don't know how you're going to get through, and then when you get to the other side, at some point you realize, oh, I'm okay.
Yeah,
I've done that. And so this is a song called "Fine by Yourself," and it's not about COVID, but I wrote it just before the pandemic hit the United States.
Wow.
When you blink your eyes at the yellow stripe of sunrise through the curtain, when you stretch your limbs in an X across the bed, but when you rise without alarm clocks ringing, catch yourself in the kitchen singing, put daffodils in water on the shelf. Doing fine by yourself. When you dust the bike and pump the tires, throw an apple in your bag. When you pedal down some streets you never knew. When you notice how the season's turning, notice that your heart's not yearning. In fact, you're feeling rather well. Ooh, 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 you're doing fine by yourself. Funny how you thought world would end, and strange to find instead. When the day is done and you're back at home with a jelly jar of wine, when you're curled up on the sofa with a book, you realize that for all your fears there's a tenderness you're finding here on the flip side of farewell. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You thought you'd never live to tell. Doing fine by yourself.
Oh, this is amazing that you wrote this before all of this started happening here. I mean, beautiful words to hear right now.
It's great to remember. I kind of like the fact that I wrote it before all this, because it's great to remember that there have been other times, right, that we have all gotten through when we thought that we couldn't, like we didn't see any way through it. And at the beginning of this quarantine, a friend of mine said to me, she said, I think I can do this because I was an only child. And then another friend said to me, I think I can do this because I've gone through divorce. And it's that idea of reaching back to those past challenges that we have gotten through that we didn't think we could, or that prepared us for the aloneness, or, whatever it is that I think, especially in the beginning of this. And when I say beginning, for me, it lasted a number of months, the beginning.
Yeah, it's a long beginning.
Yeah, but now August, it has a different feeling than April, for example. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love about what you do is you're so skillful with where you place your words in terms of where the emphasis is as you're singing. So I I hear and see the lyrics as poetry at the same time that I hear you singing, because you could so easily pull them away from the music and have a powerful experience of you just speaking this to me and having it land. And you do that in a lot of your songs. But just, I love that because you're just an exceptional communicator. But when you add the music, then there's just this added dimension. It's just so beautiful.
Hey, everybody, I paid her to say all this. Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
Nice of you. So sweet.
No, I mean, I really I love that actually from the first time I got to hear you. There's just a way that you place your words and deliver your words when you sing. It's so musical, but at the same time, I feel like you're speaking directly to my body. You know, when someone speaks something and you feel it in your whole body, you don't just hear it, you feel it. And that's something that you do.
Thank you so much.
You're
welcome. I've started, over the last few years, I've started reading poetry to one of my yoga classes, and every Sunday morning when I teach this particular class, it's almost always a Mary Oliver poem, although occasionally it's someone else. And I have found over the years of a weekly poem that I've been reading aloud to other people that, I don't know, there's something there, what you're saying about music and poetry and, putting something to melody versus just finding musicality in the words without the melody.
Yeah.
There's something about that has shifted for sure for
Wow.
me in the last couple of years, just from that. And I don't know that it's necessarily translated into my. I don't know if it's affected how I write, but it's affected how I think I read. At least read other people's. I don't know. Kind of interesting idea.
That's really powerful though, but it's there is something that you do that feels both innate and deliberate as a communicator, just in how you speak, but also how you sing, that creates like a spaciousness for the message to land. Sometimes if you give too much message too fast, nobody hears any of it.
Right.
But there's like a beautiful spaciousness about how you deliver that makes it all land in a really powerful, big way. I love it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I know that this show is usually a little bit shorter, but I want to leave with this one other idea, because I feel like I could just talk to you for a long time. But
Me too.
A friend of mine and I were talking about. This is a little morbid, especially in the time of a pandemic, but what would it say on our gravestone? And she said of me that mine would say she paused to reflect. And I feel like
just
this
got
relates to what you, for her, I felt like hers would say she paid attention, which she's also a musician and a writer. And it's an interesting idea to think. What would it say on your, when. On your gravestone, what would it say on someone? Like, what is that, like, kind of essence of somehow how you are in the world,
Oh, I love that. That's a beautiful writing prompt or journaling
It is,
prompt. To, like, spend some time with that.
Yeah.
Wow, those are great. Those are good ones. The first one that, not to make light, but the first one that came to mind for me was she really loved her dog. And I don't think that's the essence of everything, but it is true.
But there is something that you said earlier in this conversation about the connection between music and yoga and all the stuff that you found, that the community and the love and how you found the same essence in one as you found in the other, and that's sort of what drew you to it. And I think that phrase is somewhere embedded in that idea.
Maybe somewhere in there. Maybe that's where I'll dig first. Get out my pen and do something. I love this idea, though. I am going to take this on as an assignment.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'll let you know how it works out.
This is your writing prompt.
It is. Thank you so much.
Before we go, you mentioned that you have a live stream on Tuesdays.
Yep, Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. Central. I do a live stream, and I know that I think you're teaching yoga during the live stream, so we might do something at another time, or... I want to invite you too, if you ever want to send a video, I'll pop you in the middle as a special treat. and send people over to. But this was so great. Thank you.
So you have guest songwriters on that thing, but you also play music for that.
Mostly I play, but from time to time I have guests.
Okay, great.
It's yes, because we now that we have the capability, why not? Why sit alone in my office when I could, sit down with you?
I totally get it. Kellie, thank you so much for being here, for being number 14 on Tomes and Tunes.
That's amazing. Thanks for having me. It was such a pleasure. I look forward to chatting a little more.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye.
See you here. Bye. Let's get that going on. And everybody else, thank you for being here, for tuning in to another Tomes and Tunes. These are so fun. I'm so enjoying it. Next week we have Natalie Price out of Austin, Texas, and I hope that you will join us. And all the episodes are now going up on YouTube as well, so you can find the archives. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.